I'm Clifford Bates, and welcome once again to reading Machiavelli's Prince. Today we're looking at chapter 10 over there, chapter 10, which looks at the question of in what mode the strengths of all principates ought to be weighed. In other words, this is the question is what is the how are we weigh all the principates? In other words, the strengths of in what mode the strengths of all principates need to be weighed. How do you weigh it? How we're going to examine it, right? So let's continuing it. Let's go look at it. We're going to it. In examining the qualities of these principates that we have covered, right? It is requested to have another consideration. That is, whether a prince has such a state that he finds himself in need, he can himself stand up by his own means, or whether he finds it necessary to be defended by others. In other words, the whole point about this is that he needs to either defend himself, he can, in other words, a prince can, such a state, now this is that famous word state, l'estato, right? This is where we get that first usage of the word, the on the use of the word state, which he does in chapter 1, right? This idea, stato. He finds himself in need, he can stand up by his own means, or whether he's necessitated to be defended by others. In other words, is he able to do it himself, or does he do it by others? Right, that's the first issue. In order better to clarify this part, I say that I judge those princes able to stand up by their own means, who can by either by abundance of men or of money put together a proper army and make a day of it without with anyone who attacks him. In other words, and make a day of it. This is a famous line of his. Fa una agitale, to make a day of it. Machiavelli explains in Discourses 2, chapter 17, at the beginning, the Zuffe Compali, or battles in the open country, are called by the French giornate, days, and by the Italians fate diam, feats of arms. In other words, the battle in the country. This is in other words, the French will refer to it as days. So a day in the field, a battle. In other words, a battle, this fate of arms. And he can, and anyone who attacks him, he has either abundance of men or money to put together a proper army to make a day of it. In other words, that able to deal with an enemy who attacks them. You have to have the means to deal with have the means either through money or men put together a force or the resource, the thing that is able to preserve yourself, to attack an enemy. An enemy is attacking you. There's an enemy, someone who's going to take you on. You are able to make a day of it. You're able to ensure that you put a field and to respond to it. Okay. He says, I therefore judge those who cannot appear in the field against the enemy, but are necessitated to take refuge inside their walls and guard them, as always having necessity of others. In other words, if you're not able to go out and go address the enemy, but you're hiding behind walls, like you're hiding, you don't go out and fight the enemy, but you rather hide behind the walls. And then you're depending on others. So Machiavelli makes a thing that it's always better to rely on yourself. In other words, have your own means. He can stand up by his own means, or to be relying on others. Right. To rely on others is therefore like to fortify. In other words, a fort to hide behind the walls and guard them, as always having necessity of others. The first case has been discussed. That is being able to go take your situation, go out there and fight, right? This idea. What is further requested will be said in the future. In other words, about hiding behind walls. In the second case, nothing can be said except to encourage such a prince to fortify and provide for their own towns and not to take account of the countryside. In other words, he uses the word towns here, terra, the towns, the area within the walls, right? The terra, the ground within the walls. Right? In other words, you should, in other words, again, this is the person we're going to be. If you have, nothing can be said except encourage as a prince. If you're going to rely on others, and fortify and provide for their towns, and not to take account of the countryside. And whoever fortifies well his own town, and if he's managed to manage the other matters respecting the government of the subjects according to what has been said above, and will be said below, he will always be attacked with great caution. For men are always hostile to enterprises wherein they see difficulties. And in other words, he needs not only about the fort, it's not fortresses. In other words, I hear we'll talk about this. It's that the other preparations. He has to do not only have walls. He says that he's managed with the other matters respecting the government of the subjects, according to what has been said above and will be said below. Why? He will be attacked with great caution. For men are always hostile to enterprises wherein they see difficulties. And they will see that it is not easy to attack um, attack someone who has kept his town strong and who is not hated by the people. In other words, as long as he is not hated by the people, in other words, he kept his town strong. So, but what is the strength in the town? Is it the walls or is it something else? That the strength of the city itself. He's kept his town strong and is not hated by the people, right? The cities of Germany are free to the highest degrees. They have little countryside and they obey the emperor when they want to. They fear neither him nor any other neighboring power, for they are fortified in such a mode that everyone thinks that conquering them would be tedious and difficult. So therefore, this is the cities of Germany. In other words, the cities of Germany are free to the highest degree. They have little countryside. They're armed. They do what they obey the emperor when they want to. They neither fear him or other powers. Why? Because they're fortified. Now, this is the problem. Is it the fort or the militia? And these other instance of these three cities, in such a mode that everyone thinks that conquering them would be tedious and difficult. For they all possess requisite moats and walls. They have adequate artillery. They've always kept a year's drink, food, and fuel in public ladders. And beside this, so that the plebs may be fed without loss to the public, they always keep on hand a common fund sufficient for 1 year, whereby they can give them work in these employments, which are the nerve and the life of the city, and those industries which feed the people. In other words, they're well ordered. In other words, they have the means, they have the not only the food and the supply, but the money to keep the necessary industries alive. They still hold military exercises in repute and have many ordinances to maintain them. So therefore, this is another thing. This is four. Repatio dia militia media. In other words, this is that he has this line from his in the Aristotle. Machiavelli says of Germany, of the power of Germany, no one ought to doubt because of the abundance of men, the wealth, and of arms. They have in a very fine law, bellissimo, a very fine law, for they always have a common food and drink and fuel for 1 year. Thus, they are able to work their industries by being able in a siege to feed their plebs for those who live in the strength of their arms of 1 whole year without loss. They do not spend anything. They do not spend anything on soldiers because they exercise and arm their own men, And on festival days, instead of games, these men exercise with the personnel, carbine or horse pistol, the pike, and the one of the others of the great such arms, playing among themselves for honors and such, and for that which among themselves they take pleasure. On salaries and other things they spend little, such that every community is to be found rich in public wealth. So therefore, this is from his Arigato di Mlugula in the Tuta di Opera by Machiavelli, right? This is one of his letters and things like this that he talks about these things. This repeats the thing. I think maybe this is where, in his letter, he takes the thoughts of the letter, and presents it here. That in other words, the German cities are able to dispute. Now, there's a great, I think there's a Rembrandt painting of, you see, it's the company, the soldiers, these militiamen at the town, and they have this great, Rembrandt was commissioned a picture of the night watch, right? The night watch. That very important picture by Rembrandt of the night watch. I think it's Rembrandt. And this is the point of the German cities. The cities are armed. This is the thing. This is why Europeans don't realize they're no longer free because they're not armed. The uniqueness of the German cities was their armedness, their freedom and their integrity. They were freed to the highest degree because their citizens' bodies, their militias were armed. And this is the lesson of the old things. This is the stupidity of liberalism. Teaches you that let the state do it. Let the prince and defend you. Let the state defend you. You don't defend yourself anymore, then you're a subject. You've quit being a citizen. You've now become a subject. This is the denial of this thing. So that they don't. In other words, that military exercise and repute. This is the Swiss. The Swiss are armed to the max, like the German cities, right? And they. So let's continue how he ends this. They hold military exercise and repute, and they have ordinance to maintain those things. A prince, then, who has a strong city, a prince then who has a strong city, and who does not make himself hated. Okay, remember, always pay attention. Does not make himself hated, cannot be attacked, and if someone were to attack him, that attacker would have to retreat in shame. For the things of this world are so variable that it is almost impossible that one could stand 1 year idle, encamped with his army. In other words, you cannot do that. You cannot stand a whole year idle out with your army for a whole year. It was just impossible. There's too many things that are variable. In other words, and if someone might reply, if the people has their possessions outside and see them burning, they will not have the patience, and the long siege and the love of their own will make them forget the prince. I respond that a powerful and spirited prince will always overcome these difficulties, now giving his subject hope that the evil might not last long, now making them fear the cruelties of the enemy, now securing himself with dexterity against those who seem bold. In other words, the prince. In other words, this is interesting. Again, I'm reminded here through Thucydides' account of what happened during the Peloponnesian Wars, of how Pericles was able to convince the Periclesian position was, let's not fight let's not fight the Spartans. The Spartans who attack Attica, and they want you to draw you out to fight the Spartans in Attica, would be a disaster. Don't attack don't let them burn the farms and those things. We can maintain ourselves here. They can't destroy the walls. They can't overcome us. And as long as we're able to keep our empire and supply ourselves the resources that we can make sure that the citizens who had their things destroyed are provided for. And that is the Pericles response. The prince can always find means, again, through the examples of the good laws, good orders that maintain their things in that sense. I respond that a powerful and spirited prince will always overcome these difficulties, right? He says, and he gives the subject hope that the evil might not last long, now making them fear the cruelty of the enemy, now securing himself with dexterity against those who seem to bow. Beside this, it would seem reasonable that that the enemy would burn and ruin the countryside immediately upon their arrival, and it is in these times that the minds of men are still hot and willing for defense, and therefore are so much less ought the prince doubt. For afterwards, whichever day men's minds turn cold, the damage will have already been done, and the evils will have been received, and there is no more remedy. And now, even more, they will unite with the prince, since it appears that he has an obligation towards them, the houses having been burned and their possessions ruined for his defense. In other words, there's twofold. He says that, okay, first of all, when they couldn't do something, respond at first. They can turn they turn against the prince and stop the war, stop it. Their passions, their anger, their hatred. It's too early. They felt the attack. They're going to want to defend themselves. They're strong. They're going to be there. The timing is wrong. And then later, when a remedy, you could say, okay, abandon the prince now. We'll abandon your leadership. We'll respond to them. Go do not follow your policy. Do the opposite. Replace you, get into the position, do something, or make a peace with abandon you and make peace with the enemy. Right? Well, that they're not going to do that because they feel the enemy. They fear that they're in the heat of the response of the attack. They're responding. Okay, they haven't seen the damage yet. In other words, they're as he says, the minds of men are hot and willing for defense. Again, defense. This is that line of five. Note for note five. One is reminded of Pericles' strategy, says the Peloponnesian War. Right. This even de Alvarez writes at that point. They're hot, and then what happens? Well, when they get cold, people later time when they've been cold, the enemy is going to do the damage when they first come. Now, twofold. Once they destroy everything, they can't live up. They have to bring their food in there. They have to. This is the famous rule. When Napoleon came to grab into Russia, this is why the Tsar said, "Burn everything." Why? Don't let Napoleon burn it, because maybe he won't burn it. Maybe he'll grab the food and utilize it. Right? You burn it, preventing him from being able to use anything. Okay, you give him no room to utilize, no room to 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 benefit from it. So therefore, that's okay. But here is that they come in, they burn everything, they attack everything. Well, damage is done. When it's time, when the people have said, "Nah, this thing's I don't like this," but what happens? The damage is done. There's no remedy. You can't not undo it. The thing is destroyed. So what does he say? He says, "Well, at this stage, then people think, well, the prince owes me now. I'm not going to abandon the prince. They will unite with the prince because they since it appears that he has an obligation towards them. That, in other words, and the nature of men is such that they oblige themselves to another as much for the benefits they give as for those they receive. In other words, they say, I paid this, now you owe me. In other words, that not only that the nature of men is such that they obligate themselves to another as much for the benefits they give as they receive. Wherefore, if one will consider all these things well, it will not be difficult for a prudent prince first to keep and later hold firm the minds of a citizen during a siege, when they lack neither the means of life nor the means to defend themselves. Okay, this is the thing. A prudent prince can hold firm the minds of the citizen during a siege, as long as they have the means of life and the means to defend themselves. That's the thing about this is the and therefore they're not depending on fortune in that sense. Okay, let's stop here. If you have any comments or questions, please put them below. And I'll respond to them when I see them. If you like this chapter, hit the like button, thumbs up, share it far and wide, share it on social media, share it, around so that get the algorithm up. You're liking it and sharing it gets the algorithm up. If you've not subscribed, please consider subscribing. That way you get notifications. Again, but it also helps the algorithm of the channel a little bit. We're almost at the magical number. And if we're gonna, when I hit it, I'll say, "Oh yeah, party!" But I hope to grow, and we have to grow. So please encourage others to get others to come and look at the channel and subscribe. Show the channel about if you know someone who's interested in these things. And if you're new to the channel, go check out the other videos in the series and the earlier version of this as well. And then to other things. Okay, you can check the other varied playlists of books and themes that we've dealt with. Another thing you can do is, if you want to check me out on social media, you can check out the links below, the links to the different social media accounts. Check it out, things. Follow what I do, and whatever. Another thing you can do is you can check me out as a scholar and a researcher. You can go check the academic social media links below the social media links, because you can check the scholarship out, know more about what I do and how I do it, right? And then the other thing you can do is you want to help me to do it. You want to contribute. Help contribute to this project and these things I do. I know this is not many of you guys, and I'm not popular. I know I'm not that popular. I'm sorry. Well, okay, that's the nature. But so help if you can. You can do so through Subscribe Star Patreon. The links are the URL listed below for it. Because I know this is a little bit of helps. Another thing you can do is you can buy one of my books. My 3 currently available books are listed below. You can order them. You can buy them at your local bookstore or through an online seller like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Libris, or whatever, or through the publisher themselves directly. Well, that's it. Now we're going to turn to the next chapter next, and we'll see you there. Take care. By chapter 11 next. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.